Imagine receiving the body of your loved one for burial, only to discover something is terribly wrong. Their heart is missing. Their brain is gone. All internal organs vanished. Now imagine learning this happened without your knowledge or consent. This isn't the plot of a horror film. This is what happened to at least 6 families across Alabama when their incarcerated loved ones died. Charles Singleton, body returned without a brain. Jim Kennedy, body returned with broken ribs and not a single organ inside. Anthony Brackens had his body embalmed without permission and his organs removed. Kelvin Moore, organs went missing. When his family complained, they were miraculously returned in a sealed red bag. But were they actually his organs? Arthur Stapler had some organs returned damaged. Others never returned at all. Brandon Dodson, body was returned with his heart missing. What happened to these men? Why were their bodies dismembered beyond what a standard autopsy requires? What authorized the harvesting and retention of their organs? Was it for science, for profit, or simply because, as inmates, they were deemed less deserving of dignity even in death? This is the story of a disturbing practice that remained hidden for years inside Alabama's prison system, a practice that raises profound questions about consent, human dignity, and who truly owns our bodies when we die. Hello strangers, welcome back to the Strange Bar and Grill. I'm your host, JP. In Alabama prisons, a disturbing practice has been occurring behind closed doors. A practice that only came to light when families received the bodies of their loved ones, only to discover something wasn't right. This is the story of how the state of Alabama orchestrated an evil organ harvesting operation.
Hello?
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but when we received your father's body, we noticed there are no organs inside. None at all. What do you mean, no organs? How is that possible? I don't know. The body arrived in this condition from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Some of his bones were broken too, including his ribs. But nobody asked us. Nobody told us anything about removing his organs. What you just heard wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern that affected multiple families across Alabama, leaving them traumatized and searching for answers. Charles Edward Singleton, 74 years old, had been housed at the Hamilton Aged and Infirmed Center, a facility designed for elderly and medically vulnerable inmates. In November of 2021, he was transferred to Regional 1 Health in Memphis for specialized medical care. On November 21st, 2021, Charles Singleton died at the hospital. The chaplain got on the phone with Charles Singleton's daughter and said, "The Alabama Department of Corrections can handle the burial arrangements if you prefer." Charles's daughter responded, "No, we will claim my father's body. Our family wants to handle his funeral arrangements ourselves." On November 3rd, 2021, University of Alabama at Birmingham, or UAB, Department of Pathology received Singleton's body to conduct an autopsy. Without the family's knowledge or consent, they removed his organs and tissue. The family requested his body be sent to a funeral home in Pell City, Alabama. After the funeral home received Mr. Charles Singleton's body, they began to process him and immediately discovered something horrific. They contacted Mr. Singleton's family right away. The funeral director told the family, "I need to warn you before viewing. Mr. Singleton's body is already in a noticeable state of decomposition with advanced skin slippage." When Mr. Singleton's family went to view his body, they noticed his organs were missing. Shocked, they said, "There's no organs in his body. Where did all his organs go? His brain is missing." Singleton's granddaughter immediately got on the phone with UAB and asked, "Why are my grandfather's organs removed? Why wasn't our family consulted?" The UAB official responded with, "Organ removal is standard practice and legally permissible." The autopsy was ordered by the state corrections department. Despite their requests, the family never received Charles Singleton's organs. His body had been, in their words, mutilated beyond the scope of a standard autopsy. Jim William Kennedy, 66 years old, died on April 13th of 2023 while incarcerated at Limestone Correctional Facility. His body was transported to UAB's Department of Pathology that same night for an autopsy. 4 days passed before Kennedy's family was even notified of his death. The chaplain would finally call Jim Kennedy's brother.
I'm calling to inform you of your brother's passing. We've been trying to reach the family for a few days now.
Jim Kennedy's brother was confused. Days? We've checked our phone records. No one from the prison called any of us until now. The family immediately claimed Kennedy's body and requested it to be sent to a funeral home in Eufaula, Alabama. What the funeral home director discovered was horrifying.
Hello? I regret to inform you that Mr. Kennedy's body is in a severely damaged state. He's missing all of his organs, and some of his bones, including his ribs, are broken.
Now you can imagine the hell that broke out after Jim's family heard that news. Jim's daughter would write an email to the Limestone Correctional Facility's warden. The email read, "We're requesting the return of my father's internal organs immediately. Please advise us on how we can retrieve them." The warden would never respond to the email. Jim Kennedy's sister-in-law contacted the UAB directly. "We're disturbed that Jim's body was returned without his organs. We want them returned for proper burial now." A UAB representative responded with,
UAB is a teaching institution, and every teaching institution that does autopsies keeps their organs.
Jim Kennedy's family and the UAB would continue to go back and forth for months. However, the Kennedy family never received Jim's organs back. Anthony Perez Brackens was just 36 years old when he died on June 28, 2023, at Limestone Correctional Facility. Unlike some other cases, his family was informed of his death the same day, but it wasn't by prison officials. Anthony Brackens' death was reported to his family by a fellow inmate using a hidden cell phone. The inmate called Anthony's mother and said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but Anthony died today." Brackens' mother immediately began communicating with the warden about claiming her son's body and his belongings. The chaplain sent the required paperwork via email, which the family promptly completed. The next day, June 29th, the UAB received Brackens' body for an autopsy. Following the family's request, his body was sent to a funeral home in Decatur, Alabama on June 30th. The Brackens family reached out to the funeral director and said, "We'd like to have an independent autopsy done. Can you arrange that?" The funeral director would respond,
I'm sorry, but that won't be possible. None of Anthony's organs have been returned, and his body has already been embalmed while in UAB's possession.
The Brackens family was shocked. Embalmed? Why were his organs removed? Why was he embalmed without our permission? The family would contact the UAB for answers. A UAB pathologist responded,
It's standard practice to retain organs at the conclusion of an autopsy. And regarding the embalming, Mr. Brackens had a communicable disease, so embalming was required.
Anthony's family told the UAB pathologist, "We want to bury Anthony with all his organs." That's what he would have wanted. The UAB employee would respond dismissively, "It's too late now." No further information about the alleged communicable disease was provided, and no organs were ever returned to the Brackens family. Kelvin Moore was 43 years old, died on July 21st, 2023, at Limestone Correctional Facility, the third inmate in this story to die at that particular prison. The correctional facility chaplain would call Kelvin's family and say,
I regret to inform you that Kelvin has passed away from a fentanyl overdose.
Moore's body was taken to UAB for an autopsy and later transferred to a funeral home in Mobile, Alabama. And once again, the funeral director would contact the family and tell them the same thing.
Sorry, I need to inform you that all of Kelvin's internal organs have been removed.
The family was devastated and immediately contacted UAB. How could you remove his organs without our consent? We want them returned immediately, the UAB representative would respond.
It's not our policy to return organs to families after an autopsy.
Unlike the other families, after persistent demands, the Moore family did receive what they were told were Kelvin's organs. But were they actually Kelvin's organs? A UAB employee would hand over Kelvin Moore's organs in a sealed red bag. The family took the container to the funeral home with specific instructions. Please place this bag in Kelvin's casket. We want him buried with his organs, as he should have been in the first place. But were those really his organs? Did he really die of a fentanyl overdose? Arthur Olin Stapler was 85 years old when he died on September 23, 2023, while incarcerated at Hamilton Aged and Infirm Center, the same facility where Charles Singleton had been housed. At the time of his death, Stapler was at a Brookwood Baptist Medical Center in Birmingham receiving care. 2 days after his death, UAB received Stapler's body for an autopsy. The autopsy report later stated that permission for unlimited autopsy is granted under the authority of the warden at Hamilton A&I Correctional Facility. At no point was Stapler's family consulted about the autopsy or the removal of his organs. Arthur Stapler's family wanted an independent autopsy performed, so they took his body to a private physician. But an autopsy couldn't be completed because none of Arthur Stapler's organs were present in the body cavity, nor were they delivered with the body. The doctor contacted UAB to retrieve the missing organs. After some back and forth, some organs were returned, allowing a limited second autopsy. The private physician stated, "Several organs are still missing, the small and large bowel, with the exception of a portion of the rectum, appendix, pituitary, adrenal glands, and testicles were not received. The pericardial sac is also not present." Stapler's family requested to see the results from the UAB autopsy report. The family did not receive the report until months later. Some of Stapler's organs were never returned to his family. Brandon Dodson was 43 years old when he died on November 2023 at an Alabama prison in Clayton. His case was the one that first brought this disturbing practice to public attention. When Dodson's body was returned to his family, they noticed something wasn't right. They ordered a second autopsy, which made a shocking discovery. His heart was missing. The Dodson family filed the first federal lawsuit in December of 2023. Demanding answers about what happened to Brandon's heart. A hearing in January was not revealing. In court, the UAB witness stated, "They don't know where Dodson's heart is." Well, that didn't just grow legs, get up, and walk away, did it? How do you lose a heart? You don't lose a heart. You steal a heart and you sell it. That's how. Same way a crackhead used to steal VCRs and then they sell that and then look you in the eye and shrug their shoulders. The Dodson case brought national attention to the issue and inspired the other families to come forward with their own lawsuits. These weren't just bodies being disrespected. These were fathers, sons, and brothers whose dignity was violated, even in death. And now, I didn't look into their criminal background, anything like that, so I don't know what they did to get in prison. So don't come for my head with that one. These weren't accidents. An agreement between the Alabama Department of Corrections and the University of Alabama at Birmingham had been in place since 2005. UAB was paid $2,200 for each autopsy performed. According to a 2018 study cited in legal documents, nearly 50% of UAB's Department of Pathology revenue came from autopsies for the Department of Corrections or the Department of Forensic Sciences. The agreement gave the Department of Corrections Commissioner the authority to grant permissions for autopsies and the removal of organs or tissues for further study on said inmate. Okay, so they have some kind of agreement that the UAB does these autopsies, but why are they not contacting the family and making these legit? Why are they being sneaky and going behind these families' backs to do these autopsies and removing their organs illegally? And these cases are just the ones that we know of. I'm sure plenty of these cases have went through and families weren't informed or weren't given the correct information. These are just the families that kind of did their due diligence and spoke up.
I just don't understand how we can use organs from prisoners when they never gave consent. We should speak up about this. This just doesn't feel right.
In 2018, UAB medical students raised concerns about extracting organs from people who died in custody without consent. 13 students had representatives go before doctors that September to seek guidance about the legal and the ethical status of this tissue procurement process. The students were told removing organs was part of legally required autopsies for prisoners. They were told using these organs for teaching benefits future patients, and if not used, they'd be thrown away. The students learned that in private autopsies not involving prisoner deaths, family members could opt out of allowing organs to be used for teaching. But this was rare. According to UAB ethicists, over 3,000 cases of gross autopsy performed at UAB from 2011 to the present, only 4 families refused. But for prisoners, their families had no opportunity to opt out. They simply received bodies with pieces missing. But why so secretive? Why do you take these prisoners and steal their organs? What are they hiding? By early 2024, the families had enough. The family of Dodson filed the first federal lawsuit in December of 2023. By February, 5 more families had filed lawsuits in state court. The family brought charges of unlawful conversion of anatomical parts, conspiracy, fraud, negligence, unjust enrichment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Alabama State Representative Chris England proposed a bill seeking to make it a felony for a medical examiner to retain a deceased person's organ or organs without the notification and consent of the next of kin in certain circumstances. UAB responded to the lawsuits claiming they were in compliance with the laws governing autopsies and that their protocols required documented consent under the law. But for the families of Charles Singleton, Arthur Stapler, Jim Kennedy, Anthony Brackens, Kelvin Moore, and Brandon Dodson, these statements offered little comfort. In death, their family members' bodies were taken apart without permission, their organs kept for study, or discarded, or sold. Who knows what they're actually doing with these organs? My thing is, if you're not telling me up front what's going on and keeping me in the loop and being transparent, I'm assuming the worst. What happened in Alabama wasn't just a bureaucratic oversight. It was ghoulish, like some kind of B- movie, except this was real life and real death. The families continue to seek justice, hoping that no other family will have to experience the trauma of discovering their loved one's body returned incomplete, missing the most vital parts of what made them human. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Let me know what you guys think of this one in the comment section. I kind of attacked this case from a different style, different storytelling style. So let me know what you guys think of that in the comment section.